jumping through it. Yeah. Right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I do make it 10 o'clock, so we'll get started. Welcome to this meeting of the Overview Committee, and we'll start with item 1, which is apologies for absence. Please, Laura.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies are received from Councillors Claire Arnold, Alex Hall and Robert Watson, and today we've got Councillor Rue Yardley and David Hall substituting.
Thank you. So nothing from Councillor Hall or Councillor Brooks? You just said. Oh, sorry, you said Councillor Hall. Right. Sorry, I wasn't listening properly, obviously. Right. Thank you for that. Item 2 then is disclosure of interest. Does anybody have anything they wish to declare at this stage? No. If anything becomes apparent during the course of the meeting, please declare it as soon as it becomes apparent. And item 3 is minutes. Can I sign the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, the 28th of January? Been proposed, seconded? All in favour? Anybody against? Thank you very much. Item 4 then is actions, starting on page 51. Get there first. Minutes seem to go on forever. There we go. Anybody got anything on page 51? Obviously, we've got an item on 106 coming up in just a minute or two. So any questions or comments on that or the appendix A1 probably would be better left until we get to the item on the agenda. No, and at the bottom of the page, Campus for Future Living, we've also got an item on that, so we'll talk about that when we get to it. Page 52. Yeah, Councillor Makinson Saunders.
I couldn't sit still for that much longer. I was a bit concerned about potentially inaccurate footfall figures. Well, why are they potentially inaccurate? You know, we're paying for this service. Why have we suddenly, because we queried it here, have they suddenly appeared to be inaccurate? I mean, I'm quite surprised that in July we had more people walking around the town than we did in August, but there we go. That's obviously inaccurate figures. And I'm concerned that you picked all this information up on mobile phones and all the rest of it. And I can understand how that's how they do it, but it just seems a bit of a weird way to do it. Because if my son goes through town with his kids in the car, that's probably, and his wife, there's probably 4 things registering and they're not even getting out the car. Never mind, I'll rest my case on that. And on C, in the past, we always had, and you'll remember because you've been here a long time, we always had at the end of the financial year a thing about consultants and how much they'd cost this council. That seems to have evaporated. And I think I brought it up last time, didn't I? And that's why it's on here. But I think it's important to know where we're spending our money because it's the public's money after all. So why it takes till May 2025 to come up with a figure, because surely that ought to be, well, actually, I probably could work it out because they're short of people working in the finance department, but it's something that we should have every year.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you, and we will now hopefully remember to put it on the agenda every year. But I'll just defer to James, but I did agree to leave it till the May meeting so we could have a full year up to the end of March, beginning of April, which is obviously the financial year for the council. So I did agree to leave it till May. James?
Yeah, thank you. That was going to be my point. The financial year ends at the end of March. The next meeting is the 6th of May, so we're bringing it to as quickly as we can back to the committee.
Why certain consultants, why we didn't have the capacity within the organisation to use our people, and we had to go out for extra information.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that as far as we can.
Yeah, we'll pick that up in the report. We'll also put some narrative in there to explain whether it's external funding that was used or whether it was internal funding. So we'll pick that up.
Yeah, that's good. And we'll put it in the work programme for sort of May every year so that we can have an annual report, because you're absolutely right. Anything else on page 52? 53? Anything on page 53? Councillor Jones?
Well, I think there's an update anyway. Is that the next thing on item 5?
Section 106 is, yeah.
I'll probably leave it, but I'm quite concerned that in our area, I don't know how many developments we've had, 5 of them, and no money's gone to the local surgeries or school. And I don't seem to be able to get to the bottom of why. No,
I think we all feel a bit like that we've all had sort of 106 agreements in our area that we haven't actually seen the results of, really. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on to that, which is item 5 on the agenda, which is section 106 agreements update. And as I say, we have got some frequently asked questions on 106 agreements, which I found very helpful and useful. Thank you very much. And I will hand over to Amanda and Greg. Is Greg with you?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Greg's online. Hi.
Hello. I'm not sure, Chair, if you wanted me to give a very quick update on the latest response I've had from the ICB on 106, but it's very brief. Before Amanda sort of starts talking more fully about section 106s and in general, I can do that now if you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I think that would be helpful if you could, please.
Sure. So as you're aware, Chair, this matter sort of first came up sort of last July at the Health Scrutiny Committee for links, and a report was brought forward, explained a bit about the history and how Section 106 is collected in Lincolnshire for the regarding health provision. And it explained some of the changes to the NHS and the CCGs going into the ICBs and things like that. So gave us some context and where each of the districts sat in terms of the calculations and what we were due to receive. I think some of the queries were why sort of East Lindsey was sort of if you like not being left behind, but why the calculations were different than and the sort of share, if you like, or the multipliers were smaller than other districts. I've spoken to Adrian Ordis, who's the Integrated Care Board manager for the estates team, several times, and he's given me unfortunately the same answer each time. And there's the only differential that they use in the multiplier is the census information. So the associated population growth is the only multiplier that they use, and that's and that's been moved forward for this because they've now consulted on a new tariff with I think it's a 38% increase in terms of the cost, because it's indexed from, I think it was 2017. The original costs were based from. So this engagement paper came out last month. We consulted on it. They've consulted us on it, but it's in essence a 38% increase across all the districts. So there's been no change to the in terms of, you know, whether or not East Lindsey are now on parity with other districts. It's the same. It's still based on population multipliers, but it's just a generic increase, a 38% increase across all the districts now. And that, in essence, that's all the update we've got. Adrian did mention that if there are some anomalies with some of the particular applications that have come in, and you know, if the district has felt a bit aggrieved by the amount that's been collected and how that's been calculated, if there are some examples that we can provide to the ICB, then he's happy to take that away and look at them, but he can't offer any other sort of you know, and any other formal sort of if you like, update in terms of why the East Lindsey is different than some of the other districts, only other than the fact that it's based on population. So that's my update, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Makinson Saunders before. I'll come to you in a minute, Amanda, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was just going to point out that we have almost 40,000 caravans down the East Coast, and they are our population in the summer, and they use our GP surgeries, and Section 106 monies must go to the GP services. So that ought to be included in the calculation as well.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Greg,
Okay, yeah, I can take that. I can certainly take that away. I don't. Now, I know that some government statistics include caravan calculations specifically when they've actually increased our uplift on our housing need. For the new standard method for housing need, I believe has counted caravans. So I know caravans have been counted in some government statistics in planning matters. So I can certainly take that away and see if that's been accounted for. Probably hasn't, my guess would be, but these are sort of things that we probably need to take back to ICB and sort of alert them to. And you know, if it's a if it's a periodic thing, I'm not quite sure how they would do it, because obviously that population then depletes at certain times of the year as well. But I'll take that question away. Chair, definitely.
Yeah, no, thank you. We'd urge you to do that, because it does make a big difference to services along the coast, and obviously more acute at some times of the year, but it is a factor for most of the year these days, because we do have almost year-long tourism on the coast. Councillor Jones, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, what I wanted to ask you was, how do you ensure that the money goes to the individual surgeries as opposed to just the NHS fund? I've done this freedom of information thing, or that I didn't, but one of my parishes have. There's 86 houses being built at Sibsey, of which I think over 50% of the people will go to the Stickney surgery, and yet the money's going to be divided by 4 surgeries in Boston, 1 in Old Leek. How does a surgery or a school actually make an application of a 106 rather than a national thing where the money just goes in the pot?
Well, I mean, I can certainly let Adrian, Amanda answer that more fully, but it's obviously down to the 106 itself and how the terms have been written. It does need to meet the sort of the SIL test, so it needs to be the request for funding for needs to be specific to the development. So it should be specific. I know there's a bit more leniency now in terms of health provision if it's you know, catering for a group of surgeries under the same umbrella, if you like, or under the same wider surgery banner, that you can sort of get by that way. But so there could be 3 or 4 surgeries under a group of surgeries. It could sort of, the 106 could, you know, a 106 could be could serve, if you like. But it is really down to the terms of if the terms are saying, you know, that 106 needs to be spent at that particular surgery, at that specifically, so you can't spend that money on you know, on another surgery. So it is down to the actual 106. But Amanda will be able to explain that much more fully than myself.
So Amanda, shall we come to you and let you give your presentation, because I think you've got a presentation on the board.
Yes.
So, and then we can come back to that point probably at the end.
Brilliant.
So over to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Seaton and I'm the lead Section 106 monitoring officer for the partnership. Today I will share a presentation that will summarise the process of Section 106s and our role monitoring them. A Section 106 is a legal agreement that enables a local planning authority to enter into a negotiated agreement, also known as a planning obligation, which is used to mitigate the impact of a specific development to make it acceptable in planning terms. Legally, a planning obligation must be necessary to make the proposed development acceptable in planning terms, directly relate to the proposed development, and fairly and reasonably relate in scale and kind to the proposed development. During the planning process, consultations are undertaken with all outside bodies, including Lincolnshire County Council and NHS, which decide whether the site warrants a proposal to be submitted. The value of the contribution is calculated using specific formulas set by the outside body. It should be noted that these agreements generally benefit the locality of the site. For instance, the NHS contribution of a site being built in Louth would not have the monies dedicated to a project in Mablethorpe. Once the developer agrees the requested contributions, then a Section 106 agreement can be drafted and signed. Not every development will trigger all contributions. They are site specific. The individual Section 106 agreements currently registered with the council only become enforceable when development commences on site and or when a particular stage of development is reached. In addition, each agreement may contain several individual financial requirements, with the standard contributions being affordable housing, education and healthcare. Various sites have numerous Section 106 agreements and deed of variations running alongside one another. Typically, trigger points revolve around stages of development. Some obligations are required when development commences, others apply at various stages during construction. For instance, with residential developments, the usual trigger point is reached prior to the occupation of 50% of the dwellings on site. Not all obligations will relate to contributions payable to the District Council. Some will relate to contributions payable to LCC, as in education and highways, whilst others will relate to contributions eventually payable to third parties, for example, parish councils or healthcare providers. Please note, East Lindsey does not have any involvement in the spend or allocation of the education, healthcare and highway contributions. They are assigned by LCC and NHS respectively and utilised as per the obligation within the Section 106 agreement. Undertakings are signed to ensure they are aware of the conditions of the Section 106 and the timeframes associated with these contributions. Responsible officers within the District Council ensure the contributions that are available for East Lindsey are spent in accordance with the Section 106 agreement. Please note the monies cannot be spent on anything else in generic terms. We allocate money to the various delivery teams within the council. For example, communities and affordable housing. They then deliver the requirement through a robust auditable procedure. Our monitoring role takes effect once the agreement is signed. We have extensive spreadsheets covering each council, where each contribution and trigger is monitored on a regular basis. It should also be noted that the length of time between signing an agreement to a trigger being met can be lengthy, especially with the larger developments. We monitor the planning application via access to building control and checking the completions on the site. Once completions are nearing the trigger, we reach out to the developer to confirm when they will be due and arrange the invoicing. As part of the invoicing process, we calculate indexation. Indexation provides protection against inflation for Section 106 agreements and obligations and ensures that the council and outside bodies are protected against the cost of delivering infrastructure rising from the time the agreement is signed. In most cases, the indexation would run from the month prior to the signing of the agreement up until the date that the obligation is payable. The type and details of the indexation is stipulated within each Section 106 agreement, and all indices are updated and evidenced at the time of invoicing. We communicate with developers and outside bodies on a regular basis to ensure we are aware of any amendments, queries, and/or triggers due. The finance aspect of the calculation of indexation, raising invoices and payment requisitions all lie with ourselves to allow us the knowledge needed to monitor effectively. Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide the finance data within this presentation. The deep dive into the finances was scheduled for January 2025 by PSPS. This has been delayed due to staffing year-end commitments. However, I am also currently working through my own reconciliation as well, which I am hoping will provide full resilience within the data. This is a similar task that I completed at South Holland, where after a failing audit, my position was created to ensure the ledgers and monitoring spreadsheet matched. I would like to reassure you the process and procedures implemented through this project will be reenacted at East Lindsey, and I will be happy to return to the committee and provide full analysis once this work has been completed. I have also recently appointed a new full-time team member to assist across the partnership and to ensure we have the capacity needed to cover the general day-to-day tasks. We are the first point of call for FOIs and condition compliances, as well as dealing with general inquiries and monitoring the spreadsheets across the councils. We have introduced quarterly meetings with LCC and NHS to interrogate data held on both sides to ensure we correlate, as well as obtaining regular updates on various projects and allocations across the councils internally. My aim is to create greater transparency on how Section 106 agreements are drafted, monitored and enforced. During my short time here at East Lindsey, we have aligned our processes and procedures across the three councils, and I've introduced auditable tracking to ensure our systems are robust. We will also increase our presence within the office. At least one of us will be in attendance at the Horncastle Hub on Thursdays moving forward. Please feel free to contact us via the email shown or come and see us in person, as we are happy to help and offer advice on any questions or queries that you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And I think, yes, we would like you to come back when that piece of work is done, because I think everybody has concerns about sort of what's actually happening in their patch and area, especially with so many big developments going on at the minute. I mean, we've just about to have another application for another 200 houses here in Horncastle, on top of everything else that's going on. And there is big concern about infrastructure and what's going to happen with the doctors and the schools, etc. And it's all very well seeing these conditions put on planning applications, but we don't actually see them implemented, or don't feel that as ward members we see them implemented. You heard Councillor Jones's question. I don't know if you wanted, do you want to repeat that, Neil, or were you happy to sort of see if you could address it, Amanda?
Yes. As mentioned, we don't have control of where the money goes. With NHS and LCC, they are consultations in the planning process, so they do assign the monies to the projects. We do monitor that via the Section 106. It's part of the introduction of the quarterly meetings to ensure that those monies are spent as per that agreement. Generally speaking, Section 106s do improve the localities provisions. As mentioned, you wouldn't get pot of money going to Horncastle if it was Louth. They do generally, but where the specifics fall, that is something that we would have to speak to either NHS or LCC in regards to if there's a selection of surgeries, what is that protocol on how they go to that one and not that one. I'm happy to have further investigation as an action if that would help, just to clarify how those are represented. In regards to the actual contributions themselves, it is part of our role. This is what we do. I can assure you that the contributions, if it is education, healthcare, affordable housing, open space maintenance, anything, this is our role. We make sure that people are spending the money the way that they should be spent.
Thank you for that. I'm delighted because I've now got 2 names and I've also got somebody I can ring on a Thursday. And I shall pass it to all my parish council clerks and you will be inundated in messages.
I don't mind. I'd rather be there and help than have questions.
Well, quite. And I mean, I think if people could see where the money was going and when and why, it would help considerably. So, no.
It is unfortunate that the PSBS deep dive got rescheduled. There is some staffing and year-end commitments that unfortunately it's not been able to happen yet, but we are hoping to get a new date booked in. And we are also, with the full-time member now, I'm hoping that I can spend a bit of time on it as well and do something similar to what I did at South Holland and just really get into the nitty-gritty to ensure that what we have is accurate and we can analyse it better.
Okay, thank you. That will be helpful. Councillor Yardley.
Thank you, Amanda, for that. That was very helpful. I have a few questions. One, sorry, this is echoing. So on the first page where the appendix A1 is, it says major application sites that require other types of financial contributions. These include fire station contribution towards environmental issues, etc. We've recently approved a large amount of contaminants to be kept at the Hatton compressor station. And it's basically gone from 36 tons to 181 tons, which is a massive, massive increase, which makes the Hatton compressor station a coma site. Why is that no contribution, section 106 contributions on that?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to answer that. It would be via the planning process.
Okay.
We do have them at Spalding Power Station, for instance, Sutton Bridge Power Station. We do have additional contributions there. So unfortunately, without having a planning officer present, I'm not able to answer that, I'm afraid. It is prior to my involvement. We deal with the monitoring of the Section 106s, so when the Section 106 has been signed.
Yeah.
However, that seems to be more of a planning process as why is it's not been included during that planning process? Why is there not been a suggestion for these?
Right, so the suggestion needs to come from planning, does it?
Yeah.
Right, now in the event of any large infrastructure, so there are biogas plants, biodigesters, etc., would they all hit that bit where a section 106 is supposed to be asked for?
Again, I'm not a planner, so
Okay.
I'm not sure about all the intricacies of how Section 106 has come about.
Yeah.
I know that Lisa Davies, who is the senior planning lawyer, should be able to help in regards to the guiding of how Section 106 do get drafted and signed. But I do feel like some of those questions would probably be best fit with the development manager, Andy Booth, who should then be able to explain the process of how we can potentially get these contributions in and what warrants it. The power station was a massive build with a lot of money behind it. So I feel like that was part and parcel of how and where these other contributions came into place. So I think it's a complicated system, which I wouldn't want to comment on.
Fair point, but just so you know, Hatton compressor station is massive because of these. My next question was about the legal fees, which is on the page 56. It talks about the legal fee is divided between the developer. So who pays for these solicitors? Is it East Lindsey who's paying? Is it the developer? Is it the landowner? Because all three are mentioned there.
No, that's fine. The legal fees are changing. We're moving away from Links Legal Services, and we now, as I said, have Lisa Davies, who is the senior planning lawyer. The legal fees are hers. So we recharge the developer that legal fee, and it is just so it's a much more simplified process than what it was when we were dealing with Links Legal Services, and that's across all of the partnership now.
Okay.
I am here all day, so feel free.
So, I mean, would you like us to ask Andy Booth from planning to come and tell us about how planning decide on 106s?
Yes, Chair. You know, just being part of planning, I constantly attend the planning policy meetings as well. I find that there is definitely a disconnect as to what we understand the 106 is, how it's paid, because people ask us and we don't actually know. We've had a training for the section 106, so I understand some of it. One of the big eye openers was in your pack here. It says it's for infrastructure. None of us at planning understand that. It doesn't say anywhere in any of our trainings that this is for infrastructure development. So it's for building a school, not for your teachers, not for additional funding towards your schools. And I think this is a massive thing. Why is it that East Lindsey are not charging a SIL, for example, your community levy charges?
Yeah.
That's what helps our communities. We don't care whether, you know, they build another room in a school. We do care if our playgrounds are taken care of, what our residents are getting out of it. They're not. It's going to NHS. It's going to LCC, you know, and these are the important things. And I think we need to really have a conversation about why we don't charge SILs anymore. Is it a national thing that they're moving away from it? Or is it just that East Lindsey have decided we're only doing section 106, no longer SILs?
I don't think East Lindsey have ever done SILs. And it is the policy of East Lindsey to have 106 rather than SIL. But I know my own parish council in Horncastle has actually written to the district council asking that they consider doing SIL instead of 106.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the only logical thing to do. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Um,
But I mean,
sorry.
I can
Yes.
say that's something that's probably difficult for you to answer, Amanda.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. I do know that with SIL though, there are complications with SILs as well. With SILs, you don't have that local benefit as much as you do with section 106s. If they are large, like we have a Spalding Western Relief Road, majority of any of the contributions relating to highways would all just go to that. You wouldn't see the traffic regulation orders or anything like that because the SIL would provide that to be the most important. So you do lose some of the locality with SIL than you do actually with section 106s.
It says the parish council, and then the parish council decides where.
I think that's certain contributions. I don't think that's necessarily healthcare or education or highways because they are outside consultations. So for us, it would be the parish councils. And that's the same as section 106 is the parish council can submit a bid on large enough developments to warrant it. If you have a proposed project, they can submit those to be considered. We do work quite closely with South Holland with the parish councils. We've done a Western where they've improved their bus shelters as part of a very large development. Obviously, there's terms of viability. That's a big thing at the moment. But it is something that I would encourage parish councils to do because it's better to ask and not have it than actually ask or even be aware of it.
But, well, I know they are in Horncastle and we've tried, but we've had the response back that it's got to directly be affected by the development that is proposed. It's got to, you know, you can't just say, well, we're doing a play area the other side of Horncastle, which we're doing up a play area, but it's got to be related to the development where it is. That's the problem. So you can't demonstrate that a new estate sort of half a mile away is actually going to directly affect the play area in the middle of the town. And that's why there's been no contribution towards it, or they've refused to give a contribution towards it because of the distance from the actual project.
They can then take that money and council. Now, in all the time that I've been in planning for 2 years, I have not seen a single application that has come in from a developer that says, here you go, parish council, we're giving you this much money. Do with it with your playground because we don't have the money to.
Yeah. No, I've never seen one like that.
So that means either we're pushing this agenda. South Holland clearly are, but East Lindsey are not, so that's something maybe we need to have.
Okay, well, we'll get the planning officer, we'll put it in the work programme to get him to a meeting to explain how they decide, what they decide as planning officers to recommend to the committee. Okay, councillor Makinson Saunders.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious. We've been missing out on a lot of money coming into our area. Developers are pretty keen to put up some of these dreadful houses that they're putting up cheaply and not repay the community. And, you know, it's poor, isn't it? And we certainly, the parish council, I know at Louth, they're always saying, why can't we have a Section 106 agreement on that? But nobody's ever bothered to come and explain anything that you've said today. And so, you know, these developers come in, we're having huge amounts of development, and they say, oh yes, well, we'll give some money to the doctor's surgery. We can't get GPs.
No.
We can't do what we would like to do. You know, they put an operating theatre in one of the GP surgeries in that, which is a bit ironic given that it's a private business, which I think makes some of us scratch our heads as well. But we need to know that our planning officers are fully trained in doing this, because I wonder if they are. You know, I think there's a huge, huge gap that we need to fill. Thank goodness they've got you. You look like somebody that's going to chivvy them and fight from the front, and that's really, I really appreciate that. And we need people like that pushing for it. But you know, if we're going to have 1.5 million new homes in this country, which the present government are pushing for, our communities want something back, something tangible, and we can't stress it enough. So thank you for your efforts, and I look forward to the list of seeing where the money's gone, if it has gone.
Yes, quite. Yes, thank you for that. Any other comments or questions for Amanda or Greg? No, if not, Amanda, what would you think would be a reasonable timescale to come back? 6 months, do you think?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely hoping by 6 months. We'll have everything.
So if we
I can
said,
get it done earlier, I will let you know. But if we say
Okay.
6 months, then that gives us
but if
plenty
we
of time to.
sort of programme it for September, that sounds, we're in March now, aren't we? That gives September, gives 6 months.
That's fine. Yeah, not a problem.
Right?
Just done because it's the beginning of September meeting.
Is it right? Yeah, just that. Yeah. So we'll schedule for September, and then if there's a delay, you'll have to let us know, and we'll move it back. But if we can go for September, that would be good. And we'll ask Andy Booth to come at his earliest convenience.
Just come back a minute, Madam Chairman. At health scrutiny, the lady from the NHS said that they have a dedicated lady who phones up all the districts in Lincolnshire once a week to check on all of this. And she was telling the committee this and to push for it. But she said the NHS are very strict about where the money should go, and it must only go to GP surgeries, and that comes from on high in the NHS. It's not a local decision. That is how they do it, basically. Yeah. But that, I thought that's where I picked up about we were asking less than the other districts in our partnership, which seems ironic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But it leads to Councillor Jones's point about who decides which surgeries the money goes to, and why they go to Boston when there's one in Sibsey. It's all a bit bizarre, really. Councillor Yardsley?
This is what the room is going to roughly cost. We've got these quotations, and you help us with this. So the next time a development application in that area that affects that. So for example, in Rugby, we have people coming all the way from market rates into West Lindsey. So when a development goes up in West Lindsey, and they have our surgeries informed the NHS that this is something that the people in, a development in West Lindsey will then have to put that contribution back to surgery. So it's not based on our, district boundaries. It's
based on the physical surgery, which is not.
Yeah. Okay. But after the houses are built, it's too late to put a a condition on the planning application that built them in the first place, isn't it? I mean, that's one of the issues, and you've got to wait for the next application to come in to put that condition on, haven't you? Which is a bit late. So,
Sorry.
okay, Amanda.
Yeah, no, I was just with regards to the agreements, because they are 50% normally, around 50% occupied is when the trigger hits for both education and healthcare. Those monies will come in prior to the development being finished. It's not always necessarily spent because they do have about 10 years to spend that money, but there are various agreements that could relate to the same project. It's not just one Section 106 agreement per one project. There could be various projects and various agreements that relate to that. So there is money coming in and progress being made. It is just staged because they are expensive projects. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
But that in itself is a problem, because if it's going to take 10 years to accumulate the money to do the project, it's going to be 10 years of a deficit in services, isn't it, really? So anyway, thank you. That's been very helpful, and we're very pleased that you've been appointed and that you're doing the work that you're doing. And we look forward to you coming back in 6 months to when you've done the deep dive into the data. So
Lovely, thank you. And as I said, we are here on Thursdays
on a
all
Thursday,
week, like
yeah.
every week there'll be at least one of us here. So just, yeah, if you have any questions or queries, if you've got anything that you're wanting us to investigate, just come over and ask us or send an email. I think the slideshow is going to get sent out after the meeting. So yeah, we're happy to help. We'd rather you come to us.
I'm going to say, I think that would be something that would be useful to put on members' point brief with that information about well, with the information that you're here on Thursdays and that this is the number to ring and this is the email address. So sorry, you might get inundated, but
no problem. We don't mind.
Lovely.
Okay.
Okay.
Note.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on then to item 6, which is South and East Lincolnshire Partnerships Healthy Living Board, and welcome Councillor Gray, Emily and Roxanne, right down the end there. Hi, it's lovely to see you all, and I think Councillor Gray, are you going to start with the presentation?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As you say, we've got our assistant director Emma's with me, and Roxanne, our Healthy Living strategic lead, who actually is the author of this report, as you would see, and they're trusting me to present the report. So away we go. So it's very nice to be with you this morning. Thank you very much for inviting me, because we're very keen to provide an update on the work of the South East Lincolnshire Council Partnership Healthy Living Board, and really the local opportunities that this partnership is providing and delivering in Lincolnshire. We've got the report before you, Madam Chair, as you've said, and I'm going to take it as read, but I'm just going to comment on certain areas, if I may. This time last year, I think March last year, the committee received a report that outlined the joint scrutiny of the newly established Healthy Living Board, so members could help inform our remit and purpose. And indeed, East Lindsey members on this panel were Councillor Edgington, who's with us this morning, he was chairman of the panel, Councillor Aldridge and Councillor Dawson. And the scrutiny panel rightly concluded that our role in health and wellbeing is non-statutory and non-clinical, but council services and partnerships we engage in give us both a great understanding of our communities and the opportunity to influence better health outcomes. So, recognising the broad scope of healthy living, the panel recommended that the board prioritise 2 key areas. And Madam Chair, those are outlined in section 2.2 of this report on page 63. 1 being activity and wellbeing, and 2 working with communities. So activity and wellbeing, this is to address the inactivity and improve access and opportunity for all our residents to be active, and working with opportunities to leverage in unique links to the place level to engage with communities. As we all know, the Healthy Living Board has really moved ahead with great steam and has been very successful in its first year. We couldn't be more happy with that. It's provided a platform for NHS charities, community groups to work with us, and it's really given partners a way to work with our partnership and given them a confidence that we have the governance in place to support and oversee local initiatives. I know as elected members you will all appreciate that, but it's nice that our partners that we're working with elsewhere can also see that too. The report outlines the 9 recommendations made by the Joint Scrutiny Panel at section 3 of the report on pages 64 to 67, and it provides examples of local delivery in response to the steer of the panel to give a flavour of the work and the projects. I'm not going to go through them all, Madam Chair, but I just want to draw attention to recommendation number 7 regarding prevention. And that recommendation was all about further developing Council's preventive approach, and that's outlined on at section 3.7 on page 65. And this is ultimately, this is a shift to prevention is the goal for all organisations to prevent poor health, reduce risk of exclusion and reduce pressure on local services. As we all know, a key area of work for this council, and in fact the Healthy Living Board, is to help people to live and age well in our communities. As you all know, we were the first district council to be an age-friendly community in the whole of the country. Helping residents access information, service and support help prevent isolation, poverty and poor well-being. And in the last year, the Healthy Living Board has overseen successful community-based digital inclusion project with a local charity, Links Digital. You all know about the great work of Links Digital. Hundreds of residents have been helped to get online, sometimes for the very first time, and this really has increased their confidence and skills. And this project has been supported locally by our primary care network and reached people at risk of exclusion and poor health to access services. You'll all know that Links Digital is delivered in the hubs, really across the whole of our sub-region, not just in East Lindsey. We're also very proud of our local delivery of the Household Support Fund, and reducing financial hardship is a key part of prevention. As difficulty meeting the cost of household essentials and problem debt can really exacerbate poor physical and mental health. And we really need to thank our colleague Roxanne Warwick, who's with us today, for the huge amount of work that she's done in this area. Since its launch, the Healthy Living Board has overseen the delivery of East Lindsey's allocation of nearly £4 million of household support fund monies, which have been used to help low-income households in the greatest need to help with cost of living pressures. And that's all detailed actually on page 66. And then finally, at section 5 of the report, Madam Chair, on page 67, we're going to provide you with an update of our flagship health and wellbeing project in Mablethorpe, the Campus Future Living. I'm incredibly proud of this project. As you all know, I'm executive lead in this project, and Emily Spicer sat at my side is our sponsor. And we really are very excited about this project. As a background summary has been included there at Appendix 3 at page 79. But today I'm joined by our colleagues from the ACES group who will be operating the site on our behalf. And the next agenda item, they're going to actually provide an update on the progress and plans. So I really just want to thank Roxanne and Emily for their leadership, because this is the big thing for East Lindsey and our sub-region to actually create this Healthy Living Board. There were those people who perhaps doubted how successful the board would be. I know, as you all know, I'm a twin Hatton, so I sit at County Council and sit on the Health and Wellbeing Board. And there was some doubt, but they've all been proven wrong. It has been a tremendous success. So we need to thank Roxanne and Emily really for their leadership. Their support in really driving forward the healthy living agenda, because we are making a big difference. So, Madam Chair, that's all I was going to say. Of course, we're very happy to take questions if there's any questions for us. And I know, because I know the next agenda item we're going to go on to is all about the Campus Future Living. So a lot more there. So happy to take questions, Madam Chair. And if I can't answer them, I've got Emily and Roxanne by my side. So there'll be no problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we sort of leave the Campus for Future Living for the next agenda item?
Yeah, do.
And concentrate on the rest for the minute.
Yeah, do.
Because I know we've got people with us to talk about that specifically. So thank you for your report. Emily, did you want to add anything at this stage?
No, thank you. I'm very happy to answer questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Roxanne, did you want to add anything? No, I'd echo what Councillor Gray said about the tremendous work you've done with the money that you've distributed. I know we've had quite a bit here in Horncastle that we've been able to utilise very helpfully to people who really need it, and it's been very welcome. Thank you very much. So anybody got any comments or questions? Councillor Edgington, did you want to, as you chaired the joint scrutiny panel, did you want to mention anything? No. Councillor Yardsley?
Chair, I'd just like to say thank you very much, especially for the digital inclusion, because rugby has massively gained from it. I'd like to especially thank Councillor Richard Avison, who is diligently always there, always helping and supporting people. He's absolutely wonderful, and everybody in our community know him. So just like to say a big thank you. We'd like to see more things like that, I'm sure, across the partnership. Thank you.
Yeah. I know they've got an extensive programme. They're in Horncastle Library quite frequently and doing an excellent job. Really are. Councillor Meckinson-Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I always read these things with a certain amount of cynicism because these are always written by people that I'm not sure actually go out and talk to people. And it's when you go and talk to people, you see things from a different perspective. And if you're sitting in an office, I think this is wonderful. It's really good. But when you go out into the real world and you face problems with people, I think I just get a different dimension from it. And I just don't think, I go to health scrutiny religiously every month. The inequalities on the East Coast are just getting worse and worse. We cannot attract the staff to run these things. So how can we prevent things if we haven't got enough staff to do the jobs? You know, and that is the problem. How we get people to come to Eastern Lincolnshire is a conundrum that we have yet to solve. And that is a huge issue in my book. And it's every meeting. And I always stick up for the East Coast. And I have a reputation for it because somebody's got to stand there and say it, really. You know, we don't have dentists. The number of GPs is fading away and all the rest of it. And we can't allow this to, can't really allow it to carry on. I'm sure we need somebody who will sit down with people and help them with debt. And debt is the biggest challenge, really, for so many families at the moment. I get people coming to me at the baby bank who I've helped with the household fund, so thank you for that. It's brilliant. And you sit down and you say, well, how are you help? How much debt have you got, and what are you doing to help yourself? And they sit there in tears. And it's a lot of the people you speak to, it's circumstances that have caused it, not because they've got a mobile phone and they smoke and have a tattoo or something, which is what Reform probably might say. But that's a bit of a nasty thing to say. Sadly, Links Digital aren't coming to Louth anymore because we haven't hit the right KPIs on that. Louth's a big community, and it needs that sort of support. I was speaking to Platform Housing yesterday, who were asking me about if they could do anything to support it, but I didn't really get anywhere with that. So there are other issues, and I think it's quite important that we speak up because we talk to real people in the real world, that we shout about those issues when we come here. I've got one girl that comes to me. She was a carer, hurt her back caring. She had to go for an operation, a really serious operation at Hull. And unfortunately, she got a new baby, couldn't handle the baby because of the operation, and her husband had to give up work, and their debt is just getting worse and worse and worse. And you know, you feel for these people. It's a challenge for them in their lives, and those are the people that deserve as much help as we can give them, and not scroungers or anything else. And I think I've been doing the job long enough to be able to pick out people that shouldn't be getting the support that perhaps they are getting through the government. And there's been a lot of chat about that recently, isn't there? So, but there are real issues out there that I think that we could probably help with through the Healthy Living Board, really.
I mean, I'm surprised to hear you say that Louth doesn't hit the KPIs for for Links Digital, because I would have thought with the deprivation that there is in some wards in Louth that it would.
Well, I spoke to Richard at great length about it last Wednesday,
Yeah.
so I know
Okay.
I know what what they had to hit.
Right, okay. Well, I've got Emily and Roxanne both wanting to speak, so I'll let them come in first. Emily and then Roxanne.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councillor Makinson-Saunders. It's always very important for us to take away this learning and understand how we can improve what we offer and how we do work with our communities, because that's the bit that matters to us. And please rest assured that whilst we do write a high number of reports, we certainly do get out into the patch. We talk to a number of people, we understand challenges, and we certainly have some really great officers as well that I can just name. Jane Burney, our ageing friendly officer, who certainly spends a significant amount of her working day out in the patch and talking to different people. We also spend an awful lot of time talking to elected members who, as you are very frequently in your patches, we listen to a number of stories, case studies, challenges and opportunities that we again will take on board and try and shape our services. In terms of the question around potentially getting someone into the patch to talk around financial challenges, I'm delighted to say that through the East Lindsey Investment Programme, that's exactly what we are doing, and that recruitment will be very soonly put together. We're also adding a number of other posts as well to support our communities better. We recognise that actually some of that detailed and real grassroots training and support is actually so much more beneficial to those communities than even doing some of our more, our level 4s, level 5s, our qualifications. So, and if I may pass to Roxanne in terms of the Links Digital point, I'm sure she'll be able to answer that one as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Roxanne.
Yeah, thank you. We have been working with Links Digital and funding the drop-in sessions for a number of years now. And it's not that we're not going to carry on in Louth, it's just we are a high demand and we have to sort of move around a very large district. So it's not that they won't be back in Louth, it's just we're pausing them for a bit to service some other communities in some of the other areas. And again, with the East Lindsey Investment Fund, we'll be able to do more work with Links Digital locally. So watch this space and happy to get back to Louth. There's no set KPIs. Our drop-ins, some are very heavily intended, some are not, and that's just the nature of providing free access, open drop-in in the community centre. Just regarding debt advice, just to reassure the panel that East Lindsey do continue to fund Citizens Advice, who are core funded by the District Council to offer debt advice and money advice, and they are the local delivery partner for the government's money advice and pension service debt advice. So again, I will provide members with more direct information about how to make referrals, or how people can self-refer now for regulated debt advice. Thank you.
Okay,
Madam Chairman, I don't think that the CAB is open in Louth, and you have to phone up to make an appointment. And if you're somebody, I'm pretty certain I've had quite a lot of complaints about that, because I was going to query their funding through the town council, because if they're not open to give advice, it's pathetic, really, isn't it? Because that's what we expect of that service. And it is important that we have somebody who will sit down with people and talk about it. It's the talking to people that is just so important, I think.
Yeah.
It's having time and having patience with them. And you can't help people get through it without giving them time and patience.
Okay, Roxanne, did you want to come back to that?
Yeah, Citizens Advice Lincoln and East Lindsey did move to a telephone first model as part of their service model a few years ago, but be assured that though the drop-ins in Louth aren't open, there are face-to-face appointments available via the telephone booking, and we can request that as well. But I'll pick that up with them to see just confirm any face-to-face offer that's available.
Yeah, and what would be useful probably is to put out information in members' point brief as to how to access that facility if necessary.
Well, I had a homeless man on Friday that I was trying to give some support to, and that was the first thing he said to me. He'd gone to the CAB and he said door was firmly locked and there were no hours available or anything. And do people know to ring up and make an appointment? Because unless some of us tell them that's the only way you'll get an appointment, they won't know, will they?
Well, we'll put the information out on members' point brief, and then members have got the information as to how to contact support if necessary. Okay, Councillor Yardley.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, I think Jill makes one very important point. I think it's not the fact that, you know, our officers are not in the local areas. I think the disconnect is, and this is not just from the point that Jill's made, but this is also part of our scrutiny and in town and parish councils that we're currently conducting, is that members, so the councillors, local councillors, are not aware of all the, I know you guys do a fantastic job because I attend some of those groups that you are there, and it's not just you guys, there's lots of different East Lindsey people there talking to the community, sitting with the community, having that chat. So I know that they definitely are on the ground, but I think the problem is a lot of members are not aware that they do this. Now, if you're a member who makes sure that you find out from your parish council what groups meet which day and just show up like I do, you know, there's no way for you to know if you're not, you know, determined to go find out, and everybody doesn't have the time to do so. So I think it would be really helpful, and this is one of the recommendations that we're going to be making as well, is that if our officers are doing something with the local community, say, for example, they're going to Minting, let the district councillor know, it's Councillor Gray, but let the district councillor know, actually, on such and such date, at such and such time, we're going to be in Minting Village Hall, meeting the local community. And if this councillor is interested, they will show up. And then they can come back and say, actually, I've spoken to 5 other people, exactly as Jill said, you know, I've had this conversation with other people, this is what they're facing, and maybe have that exchange right there and then, and these people can then take it on from there. Makes it easier for the officers, makes it easier for the elected members as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it is about having the information, isn't it? And I know Links Digital are very good at actually sort of emailing and saying, we're going to be in Horncastle Library on such and such a date and such a time, so that, you know, you've got the opportunity to go along and be there and see what they're doing and talk to people if, yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Gray?
I was just going to say, I mean, it's a very good point that Councillor Yardley is making, but we do try to put as much out through member point brief on a Friday evening. I don't know if members saw this last Friday. Platform Housing Group, you know, they are our largest social housing provider in East Lindsey. They have over 7,000 homes. They do neighbourhood walkabouts. Some of you have been on the neighbourhood walkabouts in your areas. So I know Emma's staff from our comms, she put that out through member point brief on Friday. So the whole list of them, there's a huge list of where all the walkabouts are happening, so that if members can attend, you know, they've got the information there. I think it was also said that if they are going to attend, let me know. I will try and attend with them if I can too, and I'll also let platform team know they're going to be there, because walkabouts like that are good things happening in the community. Because not just platform, they bring the police with them, etc., etc., etc. So other groups working in the area, they'll bring with them. So we try to put lots of information out through that. Links Digital are very good at advertising all their own stuff, I know, because anything that's happening in my area, as the ward member, I get told about it. Yeah. So as a partner, they're just particularly good at that.
Councillor Meckinson Saunders.
I think it'd be quite a good idea if people that rent from Platform knew who their neighbourhood officers were, because I was helping. They don't tend, a lot of them don't tend to know. I had a query with somebody last week. I was helping. I actually went to the Eastgate Union Church and asked our housing team who the neighbourhood officer was for where this person lived. So the person living in the house who's got a problem, and it really ought to start with the neighbourhood officer, who ought to be able to hold her hand to get her through it. She didn't know, certainly, and the girls had to look it up for me.
Right, Councillor Gray?
Yeah, good point then, Councillor Meckinson. They should know, absolutely right. The neighbourhood officer should be the first point of contact. I'm sure with the ACES group that is the case, that's their neighbourhood officer, their housing officer is the first point of contact. So Platform have had a huge change in officers this year. I have to say, because I was sent a new list and some of them I've not met yet because there's a lot of them, but good feedback. I will send that. There's a head of localities for this area, Neil Greaves. I'll feed that back to Neil, then it'll go down to everybody that they need to make sure that in their communication to residents in their patch, because they do have newsletters. I mean, it's all digital, of course, but they do have newsletters that go to their residents, and so we need to make sure that they are keeping us up to date with who the neighbourhood officer is. So I'll feed that back.
Yeah, maybe when somebody moves into a new tenancy, that they can make sure that that information is there for them.
That should happen, Madam Chair, because when they have the sign up, they're given a pack. As you know or know, I used to work for Platform Housing Group. I was in charge of estates, and so they are given a pack. I'm sure that's still the case. They're given a pack with all the information in, so that should still be happening. But I will check that is happening because that should be there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Yardley.
Councillor Gray, I take your point that the information's on the members' point brief. The members' point brief is so small and there is so much information rammed in there. I appreciate the fact that the information's there. However, I'd like to know how many councillors actually go through every single one of them. I do as well. However, I also know councillors who struggle to read it because they don't understand, because it is very small and it's hard. Not everybody understands. I was working with one of the councillors yesterday, just trying to get him to understand the basics. Macs are not easy. I use the computer. I have no problem using computers, but I struggle with a Mac system because my phone's an Android, my house computer's an Android, and this is the first Mac I have ever used, or iPad Pro. These are not easy systems for councillors to use, and I am saying this who is quite technologically savvy. So I have to say, if Links Digital can do it, I know East Lindsey can do it. If they have a scheduled meeting going out to, I don't know, Rugby tomorrow, they can send me an email and say, we'll be at Rugby from this time to this time. And it's up to me whether I show up or not. I don't think it's such a big deal. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sure James was listening to that about member point brief. It is a small font, but what I do, because it's an iPad, I just use my fingers, spider, and just blow it up immediately so I can just read it. I get the font is quite small and there's a lot there, but I just immediately blow it up on the iPad because you can just do that. Right, well said, Madam Chair. Yeah, Madam Vice Chair. Yeah, you can.
And James has just whispered to me that he'll make the font bigger next week.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Okay, anything else before we move on to the Campus for Future Living?
Councillor Gray, how somebody who can't read and write and is vulnerable is going to access a digital newsletter?
Are we talking about through Platform Housing Group?
Yeah.
I understand, Councillor McInnes, that there's special arrangements in place. Well, sorry, in my day, when I was at Platform Housing Group, there were special arrangements in place because there were special arrangements which the newsletter went down, I don't know the word for it, went down the telephone line so they could literally listen to it, it spoke to them. So I know in my day they did, but I'll check to see if that's surely that's the technology they still have, but I know in my day it was. Our friends are here from ACES Housing Group, sorry to put them on the spot. But what happens at ACES if you have news to go out and you've got somebody who is hard of sight or blind? What happens at ACES?
It goes out in all different formats. So if you are digitally enabled, we do have online portals to communicate with all of our tenants. But at sign up, as part of the application process, you identify if you need to have things sent out via paper or via telephone call or actually via the patch officers. So the housing officers will then do face-to-face visits as well if they needed that communication method.
And to just add to that, we've just done a significant piece of work where as tenants are calling into our contact centre, we're asking those questions to make sure that actually if needs are changing, keeping them as up to date as possible.
We need to ensure that the platform are being as slick as ACES clearly are then. So yeah, I will feed that back.
Okay.
The guy that I spoke to at Platform yesterday actually did say he'd been doing a project with the blind actually. So I think they're aware of these things.
Yeah.
Or somebody's aware of it, but he told me he was a bit of a rebel, so.
Actually, it would be helpful probably, talking of CAB, if they were to put a notice in on their door at the office in Louth as to how you could get in touch with them and I know Horncastle Town Council stopped funding CAB because they did nothing in Horncastle. So, which is probably a little bit,
Got a big
naughty.
grant from the nuclear people. If you looked at the grants that they gave out, they had something like £500,000 worth of grants. So they're active somewhere.
Yeah, well, perhaps if they could put a sign on their door telling people how to contact them, that wouldn't be difficult and might help people. Okay, if everybody's finished on that particular bit, Roxanne and Emily, can I thank you in particular for all the work that you're doing? Because I know that you do a tremendous amount of work and it is appreciated. The support that you give people like the support team in Horncastle and the food bank and what have you. Roxanne in particular, you do a tremendous amount of work and it's appreciated and a lot of people have benefited from what you do.
Madam Chair, thank you for saying that. It's very kind of you. I mean, what we have here is flexibility. Some members in this room will know, I'll mention Councillor Joe Makinson-Sanders. The team are flexible. So if a ward member comes to them, and that I know Jill has, and she knows there's an issue in a specific area with a specific group in Louth, funding is made available because we have that flexibility built into the system. So thanks to Emily and Roxanne that we do have that flexibility, that we can target very quickly local issues to try and help immediately. So thank you for those comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can we move on then to item 7, which is update on the campus for future living? That actually on page 69, you've got sorry, I've lost my place. Page 79. You have got an update that leads on to item 7. So, and I know you've got Claire. We've got Claire Woodward, and I don't know your colleague's name. You're Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Thank you for joining us. And Councillor Gray, are you going to introduce this again?
No, I'm going to hand over to Claire and Hannah. Claire and Hannah have been involved with the campus since we started to engage with them from inception. So the campus building that you are seeing developed now, the interior fit outs that are there, the partners that are going to be working with the building, Claire and Hannah have been developing those partnerships now for many, many months. So I think they're going to give us the next really exciting update because, as we all know, campus is very soon to open to the public. And so I think they're going to give us the latest update as to what's happening, the type of activities that will be happening from there. So I'll pass over to them and I'm sure they'll introduce themselves formally.
Okay.
So just bear with us, we're trying to get to the point where we can share the presentation. It says I'm there. It's saying we're in the group, but on ours it's saying we're waiting to be let in. So,
Oh, Laura, is that something you can sort out? James?
give me to try.
I've just forwarded you the invite.
Saying it's
Showing you there.
It's not showing on me, so I'm not there.
You may want to invite Claire into the meeting.
It's still showing. It's
that-
200 meg.
Is it that meeting?
Sent it. Yeah. No, not that one. I've literally just it.
Do you want a 2-minute comfort break while we try and sort out the IT? Okay.
I've just tried. That one, isn't it? It is this one. Zoom streaming. I'm not. I've got no button to screen share.